It's just another November morning. Planes are taking off. Livestock are grazing in the Ethiopian highlands. Somewhere in Europe, someone's planning a safari trip. And in a quiet corner of Ethiopia, a region most of the world couldn't find on a map, Haile Gubbi, a volcano that hasn't made a peep in over 10,000 years, is sitting there.
If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Your feedback helps shape what we cover next, and you being here keeps the conversation going. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
A towering plume of ash punches 45,000 feet into the atmosphere, higher than most commercial jets cruise. Planes that had taken off just minutes earlier are now scrambling to reroute. Air traffic controllers are yelling into headsets. Passengers are watching live maps on screens, clueless their jet is being pulled into a high-stakes dance with volcanic ash. And at the center of it all, a volcano no one had talked about since the Neolithic period, Haile Gubbi. What just happened? Well, let's break it down. This wasn't your average volcanic burp. This wasn't some sleepy lava trickle tourists could roast marshmallows over. This was a full-blown geological event. Scientists call it a V4 class eruption, but let's skip the jargon. What matters is this eruption shocked the global scientific community. It blindsided the aviation industry, and it just rewrote the volcanic risk profile for an entire continent. Why was it so surprising? Because Haile Gubbi was supposed to be done. Quiet. Extinct, even. It hadn't erupted in over 10,000 years, longer than all of recorded history. For comparison, the pyramids, brand new. Ancient Rome, not even a sketch yet. This volcano had been sleeping since humans were still figuring out farming. And then, in one violent motion, it exploded back into relevance. And when it blew, it didn't just cause a local mess. The ash cloud spread like wildfire across Africa, the Middle East, South Asia, brushing up against India. Commercial aircraft couldn't fly through it. Airports across multiple countries went into lockdown. Flights were grounded, rerouted, or forced into chaotic holding patterns. Travelers stranded, pilots navigating through mayhem. This wasn't just a regional hiccup. This was global disruption, moving at the speed of wind currents. A single volcanic blast had just interrupted one of the most tightly coordinated systems on Earth, international aviation. But the sky wasn't the only thing suffering. On the ground, in the shadow of the volcano, entire villages were coated in ash. Livestock fled or suffocated. Water sources were tainted. Roads vanished beneath black powder. Emergency response crews, already thin in remote parts of Ethiopia, were overwhelmed. And for people living near Haile Gubbi, it was apocalyptic. Choking air, visibility near zero, communications failing, no warnings, no sirens, just ash falling like snow and a sky that looked like night at noon. Some described it as biblical, others just ran. Meanwhile, scientists scrambled to figure out what had triggered this. Turns out, the East African Rift, a giant tectonic fault line where the continent is literally ripping itself apart, has been silently reshaping the land for centuries. It's a hotbed of tectonic tension. Magma's been creeping upward, slowly stretching the crust thinner and thinner like taffy until snap. Pressure released. Eruption ignited. And what's even crazier, there were signs. Weeks before the eruption, satellite data showed subtle ground swelling. Seismometers recorded earthquake swarms, small tremors. Nothing dramatic, but it was there, the earth twitching, hints of magma moving under the surface. But because this wasn't an active volcano, it didn't get the attention. No alert levels. No mitigation plans, no evacuation drills. And so, when the mountain blew, it caught everyone off guard. Now, scientists are playing catch-up, monitoring everything, watching for sulfur dioxide emissions, tracking the ash drift using satellite data, running simulations. Because here's the big fear, this might not be over. Volcanoes like Haile Gubbi often erupt in phases. What we've seen so far could be Act 1, a teaser trailer. If the magma chamber is still recharging, if pressure keeps building, we could see a second, more violent eruption. One with more sulfur, more ash, more global fallout. Which brings us to a terrifying possibility, climate impact. Everyone remembers Mount Pinatubo, right? That 1991 eruption cooled the planet by nearly 0.5 degrees Celsius for over a year. It was like the Earth threw on a sunshade. Crops failed, weather patterns shifted, livelihoods collapsed. Haile Gubbi's initial sulfur output doesn't match Pinatubo yet. But if a second phase hits, and sulfur-rich gas punches into the stratosphere, we could see regional cooling, shifts in monsoon patterns, changes in rainfall, agricultural disruption. In a world already on the edge with climate change, Even a slight volcanic nudge could spiral into global consequences. And let's be blunt, the world is not ready. Not for a climate shock. Not for sustained aviation shutdowns. Not for a continent-sized ash crisis. Even now, weeks after the eruption, governments are scrambling to coordinate aid. International flights remain unpredictable. Supply chains through East Africa and the Middle East are in flux. Food prices are up in some markets. Aid convoys are delayed. People are living in shelters. And the skies above Ethiopia, still holding smoke. But this isn't just a story about one volcano. It's a geological wake-up call.
If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Your feedback helps shape what we cover next, and you being here keeps the conversation going. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
And yet, every single one is capable of surprising us in the worst way possible. What this eruption exposed is how fragile our systems are, how dependent we are on predictable nature, and how quickly that illusion collapses when the Earth decides to shift gears. And perhaps the most chilling question of all. What if this wasn't the worst-case scenario? What if this was just the warning? So what now? Global scientists are doubling down. Surveillance over the East African rift is being upgraded. More sensors, more drones, more satellite imaging. Emergency protocols are being updated. International agencies are watching for tremors, for changes in sulfur output, for any sign that Hailey Gubby is building towards something bigger. But this situation is still fluid. It could stabilize, or it could escalate. And the margin between the two? Paper thin. And here's where we turn it over to you. Does this change how you think about the planet we live on? About how much control we really have? Should more resources go into monitoring dormant volcanoes? Or are we just gambling with nature, hoping the next eruption doesn't knock on our door? Let us know in the comments. And if you want more stories that remind us just how alive and unpredictable this planet really is, hit that subscribe button. Because volcanoes don't care about headlines. But we do. And we'll be here to break them down. One eruption at a time. Because sometimes, it's not the volcano you watch that gets you. It's the one you forgot existed. And let's be clear, Hailey Gubby wasn't on anyone's 2025 bingo card. Not the scientists. Not the meteorologists. Not even the disaster risk analysts buried in spreadsheets and satellite feeds. This volcano wasn't monitored like Mount Etna. It wasn't as famous as Yellowstone. It didn't even have its own documentary. It was just there. A name on a dusty geological map. Dormant. Quiet. Ignored. Until it wasn't. And now it's the volcano that stopped planes in midair. The volcano that turned entire regions dark at noon. The volcano that's rewriting what we thought we knew about volcanic risk in East Africa and maybe, depending on what happens next, the world. Because let's zoom out. What Hailey Gubby really did, aside from shooting ash into the stratosphere and freaking out the aviation industry, was rip the mask off a terrifying truth. We are not ready. Not just for this eruption. Not for the next one. Not for the fact that the Earth has been moving under our feet long before we ever walked on it, and it will keep doing so long after we've built our cities, our schedules, our supply chains, and our expectations of stability. For all our pride in space travel and AI and self-driving cars, our civilization is still incredibly fragile when the Earth decides to stretch, crack, and explode. Take what just happened here. Flights grounded, trade disrupted, thousands of people displaced, agriculture under threat, emergency response forces overwhelmed, and all of this from one unexpected blast from one volcano that had been asleep longer than the entirety of human-written history. That's the scale we're talking about. And it wasn't even the worst-case scenario. Because let's not forget, this was a dry eruption. Mostly ash, gas, and pressure. No lava rivers eating through cities. No pyroclastic flows. No massive caldera collapse. It could have been so much worse. And if a second eruptive phase kicks off, which is still a possibility, it might be. Right now, volcanologists are watching Hailey Gubby like hawks. Looking for clues. Tracking ground deformation. Monitoring sulfur dioxide output. Scanning satellite images for new heat signatures, new cracks, new fractures forming across the rift zone. Because if this thing isn't finished, and many believe it's not, then the next phase could be more violent, more sulfur-rich, and far more destructive. And it's not just about the volcano itself anymore. It's about what it represents. The East African rift is an enormous scar on the continent. A literal split in the Earth's crust, pulling apart inch by inch, year by year. It's where Africa is being divided into two tectonic plates. This isn't speculation, it's geological fact. Eventually, thousands or millions of years from now, new ocean will form here. But right now, it's a volatile zone. A pressure cooker of magma, stress, and fracture points. And Haley Gubby just reminded the world that this rift is not silent. So what happens if the unrest spreads? What if other dormant volcanoes in the region, some even larger than Haley Gubby, get agitated? What if magma chambers under major population centers like Addis Ababa or Nairobi start showing signs of movement? What if an entire region finds itself navigating a wave of geologic chaos while still recovering from the first eruption? We don't have answers yet, but that's what makes this moment so unsettling. The only certainty is uncertainty. The only constant is change. And meanwhile, people are living through this in real time. Imagine waking up in a rural Ethiopian village, ash already coating your roof. The air thick. You try to breathe and your lungs burn. The radio's dead. The roads are blocked. Your livestock is gone. The well water is contaminated. And there's no one coming for hours, maybe days. This isn't just a scientific event. It's a human one. Aid organizations are working around the clock. Masks, water, medical supplies, emergency shelters, food deliveries. But access is tough. And the scale of impact is still being calculated. Every day that passes without clarity is another day of fear, improvisation, and survival for the people on the ground. And yet, there's a deeper lesson hiding beneath the ash. A reminder of something we often forget in our modern, digitized, schedule-packed world. The Earth is alive. It's breathing, shifting, reacting, not maliciously, not intentionally, just existing on a scale we can't control and rarely respect. And when it acts, we are reminded in the most dramatic ways possible that we are not separate from nature. We are part of it, subject to it, vulnerable to its whims. This is what Haley Gubby teaches us. That a volcano doesn't have to be famous to be dangerous. That dormancy is not the same as death. That silence is not safety. And that sometimes, the most catastrophic disruptions come not from war or politics or markets but from the Earth itself. So now, we face the waiting game. Will Haley Gubby go quiet again, perhaps for another 10,000 years? Or is this the beginning of a longer chapter? Are we witnessing the first act in a series of tectonic upheavals across East Africa? Or was this a one-off, a flash in the pan? We don't know. That's the terrifying and thrilling part. But what we do know is this. The systems we rely on, the plains, the crops, the water, the roads, the global web of commerce and communication, they all rest on the assumption that the ground will stay still. When it doesn't, everything wobbles. So what should we take away from this? Invest in monitoring systems, especially in so-called dormant regions. Create better evacuation protocols. Fund regional geology departments. Train local response teams. Get serious about early warning systems that work before the ash is in the air. Because this won't be the last eruption. Not by a long shot. In fact, the next one might already be stirring beneath our feet. So ask yourself, are we ready? Or are we still pretending the Earth plays by our rules? Let us know what you think in the comments. Should global powers be doing more to track quiet volcanoes? How much faith do you have in early warning systems? Would you want to live near a dormant peak after this? And if you're fascinated by Earth's most dramatic curveballs, from volcanic eruptions to tectonic surprises, make sure to subscribe. Because as long as the ground keeps shifting, we'll be here to break it down. Because sometimes, it's not the next headline that changes the world. It's the mountain that no one saw coming. And now, it's awake. It feels like something out of a movie, a long-dead volcano suddenly roaring back to life, planes scrambling through the sky, scientists staring at satellite images with wide eyes and whispered, "This can't be right," villagers looking up at a sky turned black at noon, and the entire world asking the same question. How did we not see this coming? And the answer, we did. Kind of. Just not soon enough. And not loud enough. Because here's the truth, volcanoes like Haley Gubby don't explode without warning. The signs were there. Weeks before the eruption, the ground around it was rising slightly, barely perceptible to the naked eye, but satellites caught it. Seismic stations picked up clusters of tiny quakes, Earth's subtle way of groaning as magma pushes upward. There were whispers, hints, echoes, but not a single red alarm. Because nobody was watching. And that's the part that should haunt us. Not the explosion, not the ash, not even the fact that it reached 45,000 feet into the sky, but the silence leading up to it, the lack of funding, attention, and infrastructure in place to properly monitor these sleeping monsters. Because make no mistake, this isn't the only Haley Gubby out there. There are hundreds of dormant volcanoes scattered across continents, mountains we drive past on road trips, hike on weekends, or simply ignore because, well, they haven't done anything in a few thousand years. And in the human mind, if something hasn't moved for 10 millennia, it might as well be a rock. But nature doesn't follow our timelines. It doesn't care about what we call dormant. It doesn't care about records, forecasts, or budgets. What we see as stillness is often just patience. And Haley Gubby, it ran out of patience. Now, the fallout is global. Flights cancelled, trade routes rerouted, emergency relief efforts scrambling, crops in the region covered in ash, people coughing, scared, and displaced. And scientists are still not sure if this was a one-off blast or the start of a longer eruptive sequence. Because sometimes, volcanoes don't just erupt, they wake up, and once they do, they don't go back to sleep immediately. So now, everything is on edge. Every satellite pass, every earthquake, every wisp of gas detected in the atmosphere, it's all being scrutinized. Because if another eruption happens, especially one richer in sulfur dioxide, then we enter a completely different conversation. One about climate. Remember Mount Pinatubo in 1991? When that volcano erupted, it sent so much sulfur into the stratosphere that it cooled global temperatures by nearly half a degree Celsius for over a year. Entire growing seasons were disrupted. Snow fell in odd places. The weather turned just slightly wrong, but wrong enough. Haley Gubby isn't there. Not yet, but it could be. If the next phase releases more sulfur, especially if it punches through the stratosphere, we could start to see regional cooling. Slight disruptions in rainfall, monsoon shifts, agricultural instability, and that's on top of the logistical, humanitarian, and economic chaos already in motion. Which brings us to the big question: why aren't we more prepared? Why aren't dormant volcanoes monitored the same way we monitor active ones? Why do warning systems so often come after disaster hits? Why does it take a sky full of ash and global aviation panic for us to care? It's not like this is a one-time thing. History is full of sleeping giants waking up. Krakatoa, Tambora, Mount St. Helens. All of them were underestimated. All of them changed the world. And now, Haley Gubby joins the list. It's more than just a local disaster. It's a symbol, a reminder, that no matter how advanced our systems get, how much we map the world, digitize it, categorize it, there are still wild cards. Still ancient forces beneath our feet that can rearrange our sense of control in a matter of hours. And if you're sitting there thinking, well, it's just one volcano in a remote part of Africa, think again. This isn't just a story about one volcano. It's a story about vulnerability. The vulnerability of global infrastructure. Of people living near underestimated threats. Of governments forced to scramble when the unthinkable becomes reality. It's about how everything is connected. Thanks so much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, you're officially part of the small percentage of people who don't just click away, and that means a lot. Before you go, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me your thoughts, your ideas, or even what you'd like to see next. I read every single one of them, and your feedback genuinely shapes the direction of this channel. If you enjoyed the video, tap that like button. It tells YouTube this content is worth sharing. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next upload. We've got more exciting videos coming, and trust me, you'll want to be here for them. This channel is just getting started, and your support helps it grow faster than you realize. Thank you again for spending a part of your day here with me. Stay curious, stay motivated, and as always, take care of yourself. Until next time, I'll see you in the next video.